Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third live webinar at the 23rd Social Entrepreneurship for Innovation in Health course. We'll take a brief pause so that everybody can join the session. Meanwhile, if you're able to see us on the screen and you see your peers still struggling, please advise them to refresh their browsers. You can drop a comment in the discussion forum to do so. Also, don't forget to take the survey that you find below the screen that asks you, are you watching live? Please click yes. You get extra points to watch live webinars. This survey will not appear if you're watching a recording. All right, then, welcome back to our weekly webinar. And this week, we opened Module 3 that focuses on strategies for advancing social innovation within your institutions. We have the chance today to learn from real-life examples of how this works in practice from our guest experts. So feel free to keep dropping your questions for her in the discussion forum, and we'll take as many as we can over the next span of an hour. And now join me to welcome our guest expert for today, Umra Omar. She's an incredible change maker who exemplifies innovation, compassion, and resilience. Welcome, Umra. Welcome to our session today.
Thank you, Indrani. Such a pleasure to connect and be here.
Great. Umra, before we get started with our conversation, I'd like to read out a small intro of you. Please allow. Okay, so Umra is a community conservation strategist and a humanitarian from Kenya, born in Lamu, and educated around the world. She holds degree in neuroscience, psychology, and social justice. In 2015, she founded Safari Doctors, which is an organization that delivers vital healthcare services to over 3,000 patients each month across remote parts of Kenya. She is also nurturing next generation of youth as health ambassadors through her program. She has already got her groundbreaking work has already got a lot of international accolades, from being named the CNN Hero to UN Kenya Person of the Year. She's also an Ashoka Fellow. Umra, it's wonderful for us to, and a great honor for us to host you once again. Welcome once again. So, Umra.
Thank you again and again. Nice to be here.
So, Umra, before we get started with our conversation around your entrepreneurial experiences and some of the lessons that our entrepreneurs can adapt into their journey forward, we'll like to briefly understand from you how has been your professional journey as a social entrepreneur, and what is the story of founding Safari Doctors?
So it's a pleasure once again to be with a group of change makers, sharing ideas on how to advance entrepreneurship and especially entrepreneurship, which is for me what led where it started. So the entrepreneurship didn't happen just out of nowhere. Is that right after graduation, I was working at the American Psychological Association in DC, and I just remembered the whole reason of being there was to introduce a new program, which would have been the venture program of advancing care in Kenya specifically. So that for me was like, there's something I'm bringing to the table that's beyond the paradigms of what the organization is established for. And it was those kind of experiences that then just a few years down the road, I was like, wait a minute, I have the toolkits in my box in order to explore what my community needs. And I think that's always been the biggest drive, is that I'm from Lamu, Kenya. I've been very fortunate to be educated and travel the world, work around the world. And that was the biggest purpose. I didn't know how or where or in what form, but it was because of this entrepreneurial experiences that led to my entrepreneurship I would say gamble, maybe, because back then it was a gamble where you're like, okay, now I want to use what I have to design a health program that can improve the lives of my community.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that you started with an experience as an entrepreneur, and then that led to the journey as an entrepreneur, social entrepreneur. What has been the story of founding Safari Doctors? What does Safari Doctor do?
So with Safari Doctor, what I keep on telling the people around me is that it's not a new idea. It's just an idea that has been owned by my experiences. There was an initiative called Sailing Doctors that then in 2014, because of the terror attacks in Lamu, because of some of the very bad press that happened, that came to a stop. So for me, it was about taking an existing model that really worked about traveling to remote communities, delivering healthcare, but then now doing it from the grassroots level, finding like-minded people that would still want to go out regardless of the harm or the terror that was presented. So Safari Doctor started because of a project that was seeing its end, and we were in a position as a people to own it and take it to the next level. So that was 2015 when we started off with maintaining the nurse that was there from the previous program. And we slowly then grew up going to more villages, the villages that the government was not going, that the aid organization had pulled out of. So for us, stepping into these spaces that people were stepping out from became our entrepreneurial spirit of offering primary healthcare to the very first mile of communities, making sure immunizations were happening. So my job at that time, I say about a decade ago, was just to figure out how to pay the nurse, put fuel on the motorbike, and make sure that we had a box of like essential medicines. And that grew over 10 years to now 100 people a month to thousands of people a month.
Wow. Okay, so that's magnanimous. Great. Umra, I see that you have a video that you want us to play. Do you want us to play that video?
Please do, just to give an idea of these regions that we call home and bring healthcare to.
Great. So
Thank
I'll
you.
request our backend team if they can play the video so that everybody can see how does Safari Doctor works.
Lamu is the main island. Government to business, it's all situated in Lamu or in mainland. Today we have departed from Lamu Island and we're going to Kiangwe village, and that's a village of about 300 households. We will be setting up a clinic that afternoon there, and then in the evening departing, going further up north. We have a community that's caught between militants and the military. We figure we're in a unique position to be able to go into these areas that we're from, and going out on the sailboat with the medicine, it's a cost-effective way. So this is the Kiangwe Primary School. With the attack happening across the border affecting the Kenyan military, the teachers that were posted here ran away. So there's been no school facilities for, I think this is a couple of terms now. We're going to have the triage under the tree, and then we'll have one room for the maternal and immunizations, and then we'll have the doctor base with a makeshift pharmacy for dispensing the medicines. The main need is an informed professional. It's human resource. We'll be getting the children up to date with the immunization. We've already identified a couple of people that need care. It's usually an average of like 100, 150 patients that we're able to see in half a day. As far as security and being here is concerned, it's an absolute non-issue because it's home. We talk to the villagers, they hear the gunshots from out in the forest, but it's not something that's targeting the local civilians. And we're here from a very non-biased standpoint. Baby sleeping so peacefully. There are these voids that are being created, and in any small way that we can fill them up, ourselves especially, because we're from here and our children are thriving from this environment. So it's just a matter of trying to fill these little voids that otherwise would really create the disastrous situation.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Umra. I'm glad we played this video because this definitely sets the context of like where you operate, the insurgencies, the people who probably see you as one of the only hopes. So, Umra, you had a calling. You wanted to do something for your people back home, and you also got the opportunity. Drawing from that, what advice would you give to our learners about how to begin their entrepreneurial journeys, especially around identifying a social cause? Because you started working on something that you were already aware of, and I think all the series of events happened in a way that, okay, you got the chance to also work on that. But what will you tell a learner who wants to start their journeys and want to identify a cause or a social challenge that they want to work on?
Wow, Indrani, that's such a heavy question. I'll maybe defer to an example is that because of living in Lamu, I started a school, a little school with 70 kids, and our motto is three words. It's explore, learn, and evolve. And that's what we input in this. So exploring means you always have to be curious about what's happening around you in your community or at home or with your family. So there's it's that constant need to search. And then you learn in that searching is where yet now you devote yourself to learning about the nuances. And then you have to evolve, meaning what role can you play to improve that situation? So to bring that home, let's say, is that I was working at the Open Society Foundations, and although it was in a health program with marginalized communities, it was like how what can we do better within that institution, within that program? Is that was to do storytelling, produce documentaries. So that's something that wasn't happening, and so in that evolving now of how we did our work to get it out there, make it better understood. So for entrepreneurs, my thing is that you always have to be thirsty about improving something. It could be anything. It could be that, you know, you're volunteering at a Girl Scout camp around the corner. It could be that you have an ailing sibling and that leads you to want to learn more about, you know, the health dynamics. So not to explore, learn and evolve is what I would say. And while you're doing that, the most critical thing that would happen with Safari Doctors, I did the mistake of telling a close friend, and she became the biggest fan. So surround yourself with people that push you to actually implement the ideas that you have, whether it's within where you're working, it's growing beyond where you're working, but make sure you can find at least a number one fan that would help you now bring along more people in that journey.
Great. So that's a great way to kind of learn about what cause to adopt. So explore, learn, and evolve, and then share that with somebody who can push you to get that done.
Yeah.
So that was great, Umra. So Umra,
Thank
you
you.
just told us like how to identify a cause or that you can adopt and work on as an
Mhm,
entrepreneur. Now,
mhm,
by being part of a big organization, you know, you have an innovation, you
mhm,
don't know how to get started. So how do
mhm,
you, what's your advice? How do I have identified a cause and then I have
mhm.
innovation in mind? How do I start as a beginner?
It's the biggest thing again, it goes back to the learning and being okay with taking a risk. Is that having the support system that allows you to it could be the work that you're in, it could be family, but for me, for instance, was that I was like, okay, I want to go home, and my support system was my family, especially my parents, and I had a young kid already. Everyone was like, you've got to be crazy, you know, you have a little one, and it was like, but having that strong support system that, you know, whatever happens, you want to fly off the cliff, but just in case, you know, there's a net down there. For someone else, it might be balancing. Because I remember at some point with Safari Doctors, I was working two jobs. I was doing a full-time job in the morning, Safari Doctors in the afternoons, and then a job on the weekend. But it was these two support systems and having family to help with the little kids that I have that then allowed me to build on Safari Doctors to salary the people that needed to be there. And there's nothing more powerful than when you're doing all of this, make sure you have your story intact, your narrative, because at the end of the day, that is what will get your idea or your innovation to even for you to see it. You know, it's kind of it almost your story becomes a mirror of what you're doing. So that was my experience, was ensuring that I was jumping off the cliff with the community safety net.
Great. So I think that's a great example, especially as an entrepreneur. You beautifully laid out, like, you identify your support systems. But in a like a complex, in a complex institution. In fact,
Mhm.
we have a question from a live audience. Sylvia Lacomeni is asking, based on your experience, what advice would you give someone who wants to start a project
Mhm.
in a complex context like yours? So you
Mhm.
are part of a big system and you have an
Yep.
innovation. You
Yes.
figured out maybe, your leaders or your colleagues.
Mhm.
Then what?
So I'll give you with Safari Doctors, for example, we have a vet program. Antonetta runs the vet program, which is usually after services.
Hmm.
But because of what she does, she's like, you know what, we could start a vet program that has a vet shop so
Mm.
that this actually helps with our outreaches. It because we have a lot of animals that come in and there's no food and we have to order. So that was her idea, and the best way that that came on is that for us as safari doctors, we have these meetings that we open to staff to present their experiences, their thought, their challenges, and opportunities. So I would say package the idea that you have, refine it, find one or two allies and the channels to where the decision making needs to happen. So whether I that would depend. Does it happen through your HR services? Is there somebody much senior? But the critical thing is also to try and do it in an as an unofficial way as possible. Is it
Mhm.
about asking to go out for lunch? Hey, I want to run this by you. Would love to schedule a time for lunch. Or is it during a staff meeting? You're like, okay, I want to make this presentation about an idea that I have. Or is it finding the right ally who would help present that idea with you? So I would need, and I'm happy to follow up in person as well if somebody, through the program, is that here's your idea. What are the channels? Who are you bringing along with your idea in it?
Sure. Um, there are so many questions coming in, Umra. They literally got lost in like which one to take first. But yeah, given the fact that you've already spoken about how to identify a challenge and then how to kind of, take an innovation forward, I think one of the natural things that I'm going to be asking you, okay, you have an innovation at a pilot stage, and we've seen most of the time, like the innovations from pilot may not scale. So you may not have the opportunity to scale it, though you have a successful implementation stage. So what have you learned from your experience of embedding solutions into system of how to sustain beyond implementation stage? We've also got this question from Egbe Miraculous Julius, who's
Mm-hmm.
one of the learners who is watching us right now. So he's also asking, like, what has been the turning points that has helped Safari doctors to move from a promising idea into a sustainable model?
First, you have to believe you have to absolutely be convicted, and that like becomes your life. Not like, oh, I want to try and invent a topsy tail or what will do good in the market. So it really has to come from within, because that's what you're gonna put the extra hours. That's what you're gonna have your naysayers. That's what even yourself you're going to doubt and be like, maybe this was not. So the belief in what you're doing and absolute 500% conviction is the first place. And then the, creating the leveraging networks, I think, is very, very key. So, for example, we have this idea of logistics for healthcare. And then, we talk to the airline company. Can our volunteers come in for free? We talk into the hotel. So, bringing different stakeholders into an idea. This is on the philanthropy side, but on the business side, it's the same thing we see in the business world. My daughter was just telling me that Crocs partnered with Pringles and Balenciaga to to come up with something. And I'm like, it made my head hurt. But that is what ensures that sustainability, how you're moving with the times, how you engaging people who are way smarter than you in your idea. That's another key part of excelling is that I know my strength is strategy and vision, but who's the finance person that we need to bring on board, who's the IT technical person. So, and that's why I think many organizations, when they're too like founder heavy or too micromanaged, or everything feels like, there's only one way to go. Therefore, when that way is closed, there's no other way to go, obviously. So leveraging networks, bringing partners on board, and engaging people who have the right expertise in what you're doing does not take away from your idea, but you have to see it as it builds on it towards the scale and sustainability.
Great insight where you said very candidly that you have to build, you have to accept that you're not expert in everything. You have expertise, and then you depend on others who bring smart
Mhm.
solutions and integrate into what you want to deliver.
Yeah.
So because you spoke about like your forte is strategies. I'm going to have a set of questions around strategies for you, but we have a very interesting question from Valentina M, another learner who is watching us live, and
Mhm.
she's asking, what motivates you when you connect with leaders handling larger project impact, social projects, and how does that perspective energize you through tough transformation phases?
So the thing that motivates me first is that seeing that we all are big leaders, bringing our own ideas in our own way. So that's a key element of sitting on that table, knowing that you also have something to bring and something to take. My favorite analogy is that, it's like the beach. The beach might look overwhelming, 12 kilometers, but it's a grain of sand that makes it up. So we're all those grains of sand that make up that really important dune. Just because one grain is on top of the dune doesn't mean that it's more critical than the grain on the bottom. So that's another thing. So being able to be in the spaces with the knowledge, with that authority, with the ideas and the implementation that you have in mind, is that for me, my biggest motivation is understanding that we're all playing our part in this bigger puzzle, that I'm the one who can best, represent with my team, with my people, with my reality, to then fit into that, whether it's being at Davos, or whether it's being at, the Skull Forum last this that just finished, is that you go into these spaces to all create a bigger movement with whatever you are that passionate or an expert in, basically.
Can't agree more. Can't agree more. In fact, you actually already answered something that I was about to ask you, because yeah, as you said that institutions. I mean, they may be having larger project, but yeah, you are there together because you have something shared,
Mhm.
to move on. So completely agree on that. So you've already kind of answered that, but one small portion of that I wanted to ask you is, how do you tackle bureaucracies and or structures
Oh
when
my
you are
God.
tackling this?
Are you sure you want the honest truth? I'm like, red tape is like, I think the worst invention on the planet. But the question is, how do you navigate? So I'm a hard one. I don't take no's. I have a hard time taking no's. I always believe there's always a way. But there's a big metaphor that we say, you always have to tune in to we FM, WIIFM, and
Mhm.
that is called what's in it for me. FM. So that's a frequency that every human operates on. Even when it comes to engaging in red tape, it's like, no, there must be a reason, or there must be a
Mm.
person, or there must be something in it for them that would also unlock an opportunity for us. Because the moment you start speaking, even right now as we're talking, everyone's thinking, okay, what am I going to get out of this? And so with the red tape, for me, it's the same thing, is that knowing where the tape is. Do we need to figure out how to move it somewhere? Do we need to figure out how to work with it in a way that is beneficial to the community and to the those responsible behind it? So I am, and maybe that's why we do what we do, is that we were operating in a place where there's nothing but red tape. But we're like, you know what? Trust us. We can figure out how to untangle the red tape in these no-go zones. We can figure out how to navigate the security issues. So I think somebody put the red tape there. So you just need to figure out if it's working for you or not, and if not, how to work around it or move somewhere else. Yeah.
That's a beautiful context that you have put for my next question, actually, because we are really
Mhm.
talking about what's in it for me.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask, like, okay, while you do have, I mean, the stakeholders can be government, or it can be the funders, or can be the communities. It's not
Mhm.
easy to bring them together in the
Mhm.
ecosystem and then look at how to engage with them. So I'm sorry, everyone. Umra is taking the call from airport, so there can be slight background noise. So
Yeah,
please.
put it on mute for a second. Thank
No,
you
no,
for
you
that.
don't need to mute. I'm sure everybody will understand that. Okay, so Safari Doctors works closely with multiple stakeholders and the community. So what strategies have actually helped you in building strategy, trust, and align with different stakeholders? So how have you built trust with
So,
all your stakeholders?
so it goes back to what I was saying that you need to bring people along on an idea. It has to be inclusive, and this is a very lived example where if you are going to go in with an authoritarian model of your idea or your innovation, then expect resistance because change by default is we start with the four stages of change, and the first one is to like avoid it at all costs. So for us, let's say it's our board. We make sure on our board, there's a community member, there's a government member, there's an international donor. So that first already becomes like a literally unintended a sounding board for what we do, how we do it, and everything. And then where we work is how do you enter just like a product or just like a market, a
Mm,
service that you need to know who your audience is. Just like
mm,
so who are you engaging? How are you going? It might not be, am I going to a male dominated place? And yes, I feel like I'm a strong woman, I'm empowered, but I'm not, but you're not trying to make that point. It's like, okay, let's find the local elder or religious leader to get into this space. You're going into youth. I have to realize, I remind myself, I'm no longer a youth. So you find what your entry point into this space is and bring them along into the product or into the innovation or the movement that you have in mind. So for me, I think the biggest buy-in is to include. Like you're not getting a buy-in if you're not including.
yeah, I can understand that, and I agree very much that you will have to look at community stakeholders who are actually wanting to move the needle together, and everybody knows about the realities. So buying into the truth is definitely one of the key underlying factors. This was also a question from many of our learners, Sylvia, Mara, Amasola. So I'm sure they'll be happy to hear this from you. One of our learners have also asked you, how can you manage as a woman in social project to stay on your vision?
As I sit here in an airport with my two kids, um, uh, is that you have to look at it as a strength. And for
Mm,
me, it's been a very, because we have all these like social norms and structures that condition us to think of it as a deficiency. You'd find the same issue even if you look at whether it's with the people who are differently abled. The ones that
mm,
rise up are the ones who see it as an opportunity. So I'm a person of the glass is always half full, always like even if it's empty, for me, I'll tell you it's half full, or that it has room to hold more water is that I look at it as especially in the 21st century, we're living in and a time that requires more feminism, even requires our men to be more feminist,
mm,
like more about communication, more about involvement, more about diplomacy, nurturing. So all these are traits that are really, really powerful, and we're lucky that they're almost innate. And we should not shy away from them. So it's not about trying to wear the pants. It's about being like, no, whatever shape or form that we come in, we can excel in the space that we desire. So for me, it's been with Safari Doctors, with running for office for governor in Lamu County, with the second organization we set up. I've always found that being a woman, raising kids, being able to kind of know that my time is very precious makes leadership more intentional. And you're able to just connect, even in spaces that you don't see connections. You're like, oh, wait, but if you're doing this, you're doing that, or this is happening here. And so your mind is always like, on super on a frequency. So it's you have to see whatever it is as a possibility to excel.
Great. I think that what I learned is like self-belief is the core of kind of womanhood is an opportunity. And having the self-belief can make your forward pathway. Thank you for sharing that, Umra. And Umra, you do so many things, as you just said, that you have a family to take care of. You have got safari doctors. You have the responsibility of keeping your organization growing and evolving. What strategies have helped you to effectively manage your time, resources, and priorities as you've continued to work on this high impact social enterprise?
One word: delegate. To delegate. As you grow, as you scale, you have to delegate. And back to the question of, things not going beyond a pilot phase, is that you can't do it by yourself. You have to find the people, the team. I delegate child rearing, I delegate, organizational stuff, I delegate mobilizing resources. You have to find the right people and delegate.
I can't agree more. So finding the right people and then, yeah, delegation, because delegation sometimes, can be a roadblock. If you can't delegate, then probably you become the biggest roadblock. So I can't agree more. There is another question that we've got from another learner watching us live, Joy. And Joy is asking, can you share more about how you initially funded your organization and how you currently fund it? Are there grants, public funds, and what advice do you have on financially sustaining something that has never been done before?
So you have to believe in abundance. There's always money out there. There's people who have it, don't know how to spend it. There's those, who don't have it but know how to look for it. There's those who, even if they have it, they still feel like they don't have it. So for me, when we started Safari Doctors, because it was personal, it was putting on small resources and really haggling my friends. And I'm like, oh, instead of Starbucks today, why don't you throw that $20 this way? So we started with crowdfunding the first year, and it was just like about $7,000, $10,000, which was a $500 a month budget. It was very basic: get some medicines, get the fuel, like I mentioned, and pay the nurse. So we started purely from crowdfunding, and it was a friend here, it was an email there, and then you collect data. You have to have your data and your story. So for me, it was about, here's the newsletter. This is what the resources went to. Here are the women that we treated. Here are the testimonials. Then now you're starting to institutionalize the idea. And whether it's a corporate or not corporate, because now it's not data, that basic proof of concept that you can leverage, whether it's an investor or whether it's a grant or whether it's a bigger group of friends that would want to keep doing it. So it was crowdfunding, small scale, start small, collect data, collect testimonials, put up the storytelling infrastructure, and then use that now to leverage the bigger bucks.
Thank you, Umra. Joy, when I'm sure you got your answer, and it was a very relevant question because when you start something, crowdfunding is a great way to get started. And then I'm going to repeat this just for underscoring that, yeah, the work that you do, getting your data and getting your facts of how how your product is working is very important because that can help you move ahead. So thank you for
Let me add,
sharing.
Indrani, that with that data in your story is that you always have to have your strong branding. So that storytelling or that product is that your branding. We were lucky; we had really good brand all the way from logo, newsletter, website, and then getting media to come on board in order to tell our story. So the storytelling stroke branding is very, very significant.
Yeah, I'm going to underscore the storytelling because you mentioned it quite a few times that
Yeah.
storytelling is an important part of building the narrative,
Mhm.
which can help you through and through the journey. So yeah, certainly. Okay. I've already asked you this of like how do you build effective partnerships? Kind of, how do you recruit your stakeholders? Have you ever come across a challenge when you're managing cross-sector partnerships? Do you have an
Of
example of how
course,
you
you have to have your
overcome?
values as an institution, as an individual, and it's all always very respected. We've had partners come on board that our values didn't align, and whether it was because of community feedback or whatever it is, and being okay to say no, that's a very important word in what you do.
Mhm.
And that no is not burning a bridge. It's not negative connotation. It's just that values don't align, and that's okay.
Hmm. Okay, great. So any example do you have from your
To give an
experience?
example, let's say we work in when we were first starting, we had a partner come on board and they wanted to give us funding in order to do systems to bring in an external partner. So that money would be to support them to bring somebody. And we're like, no, we would like to have an in-house person. And it was like, no, but we can bring our own specialist from the UK. And we're like, thank you, that would be helpful, but it won't work for us because of the security area, because of what we're doing, because it's a local organization. And then they came back and they're like, okay, then you tell us what you need supporting. So it was because of saying that no, where we were able to stand our ground and be like, this goes against our values of local intervention. And those come along the way. Yeah.
That's
Especially when you
also
talk
very,
of cultural nuances, somebody will come and
yeah.
they're like, oh, reproductive health, this has to be one of the services that you offer. And we're like, the area that we're going, it would actually jeopardize our relationship with them. And and we're like, thank you, but this partnership might not work. So yeah, those are some examples.
That's a classic example of not intervention but interference, which you which you very, very
Yeah,
smartly kind of made sure that you navigate in a way that they
yeah,
understand that the places where you are working, it's not just remote, but they have insurgency and security issues. So
exactly. So
anybody
there.
coming from it's not the product, it's the context
Yeah,
that
because you're like,
matters.
even how you distribute a condom, there's like an art around it. There's just these little nuances that sometimes you would have to have a push stance, to have a pushback, especially when you want your idea to thrive and everything. We're brainwashed to have this yes, yes, yes mentality, but just to be aware. Yeah,
We have another very interesting question from several participants from Precarious Mammon. One of them, I'm just naming one of them, and they're asking that listening to community and those you work with is key to evolve and grow impact. How do you gather and incorporate feedback in your work?
fantastic. So, like I said, the structures that you create have to include community. One, whether it's staff, whether it's at the board level, whether it's at the programming when you go out, and like I said, engage a local leader and everything. And then, so we would do that either through one, the established local community structures. But also, our office does have a mechanism of getting a suggestion box, like the feedback or correspondence. And because we are composed of mainly local staff that are intertwined with the communities, that's been a very like effective way. And having, like I said, our board also representing the
Mm.
communities that we work in.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that because feedback is a very important way of
Yeah,
evolving the work that you are doing.
yeah.
Umra, you are working on a very powerful model which has a purpose and an action. And we know that you made a conscious decision to kind of leave your very flourishing career in US and then move back to your home and work with remote communities. It's a courageous step. But at the same time, I'm sure that you would have required not just resilience but also perseverance. So how do you stay resilient when you face setbacks, logistical hurdles, policy challenges, and what role does perseverance play in sustaining and growing your mission?
Oh my God, it's key. And you always have to have a point of reference that, that makes you keep moving or keep going. And for me, it's the team that I work with is amazing. They go above and beyond the duty. And so it's the resilience come in nurturing a very like healthy working environment. I think that's the most reassuring thing is that no matter so what you're going to do, you're not you do what you love and love what you do, then you're not working, kind of situation, and then you can go get over hurdles that may come your way. So having a really strong team has been really helpful, and family. Yeah, that's home, so that helps. Is that it's not like you've packed up to go and work in a hardship area, and then you're thinking of what if, what could be, but there you're like this is
Mm-hmm.
there's no getting out of here.
Great. So I obviously counting on your support systems and counting on kind of, the places and the people who can
Yeah,
help you at the difficult times
yeah.
is a great is a great go-to place, I will say.
Mhm,
Umra, this is a question probably which is naturally kind of, coming up in my mind. If you see safari doctors today and
mhm.
you remember the beginning, what do you think is one thing that you wish you knew when you started Safari Doctors?
I wish I knew that it was not about me.
It was not about you.
Yeah, I wish I knew that, like it would become something that doesn't require, like it's that can be owned. Sometimes you see, like I saw a recommendation letter for somebody that was in high school, but one of the staff member dealt with it. They came, they did a volunteer program. So I wish it's good to see it now, but I'm like, I wish I knew that it's okay, that this will you like it will grow beyond you.
Uh-huh. So,
As I
so you realize that it's not just that you who will be doing,
it's
or
not
it will go be.
yeah it's not just me, getting the medicine, that one day it would be able to just run on its feet. I guess it's like raising a kid, right? One minute everything feels like without you it won't like you're their lifeline, and then you see them grow. So I just wish I knew. It's not about wishing you knew, I just that then I wouldn't stress so much about it, I guess.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that it
And,
would
and
take a life of its own.
and did you ever think, oh, it's not? Did it always go the way you wanted, or did you ever
No,
wonder,
no, no,
oh,
no, no. No, no, not at all. For me, it was like I said, it was just the motorbike thing. For I was like, my budget is $10,000 a year maximum, and I'm good. The nurse will go to this one particular area, and we're done. And I can do that for however long it takes. No, I wouldn't think it would be like what it is today. So I can't
great,
imagine what's yet to come.
great. So,
Yeah.
Umra, I'm going to ask you maybe sadly because of the time constraint. It's a great conversation. I have a lot of other small candid questions that I want to ask you because I want to learn what does it take. When you start an innovation, it grows, and
Mhm.
then kind of it becomes everybody's baby. So,
Yes. Yes.
so there are smaller questions, but in interest of time, I will move on to the final reflection and ask you that you most of our learners, because this
Mhm.
course is about entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
and they our learners will aspire to create change from within institutions. From your experience, what lessons as a social entrepreneur do you think can be applied to social entrepreneurs?
Mindset. It's all about mindset. Whether you can see it even in a 7-year-old, whether you're like this person is about moving beyond the limit, is about taking chances, about impact, is about they're just gathering tools of life in order to make that world a better place in whatever way, whether it's corporate, whether it's humanitarian. So it's a mindset, and I'm always interested in a growth mindset, because either
Mhm.
you have a deficiency mindset or a growth mindset. And I think with entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, it's definitely a growth mindset where you see a problem and you already see an opportunity of how to go beyond it. Yeah,
My
it's a mindset.
fundamental question to you: what is a growth mindset, and what is the mindset of an entrepreneur? What do you think? Who is an entrepreneur? What is the mindset that's behavior of an entrepreneur?
The mindset is a growth mindset is that you don't you first is a faith, the belief that things will happen for the better, even if it's for the worse, it's still for the better. Like even if it's raining, no, it's not gloomy. Guess what? We're gonna collect water. Or whereas somebody else might see it another way. So growth mindset is you're literally seeing and breeding opportunity. You're infectious in your idea. You have the capacity of bringing people along. You're kind of see a roadblock as a redirection as opposed to a stop sign
Mm.
and retreating. So I think an intrapreneur and entrepreneur are both of that exact same growth mindset.
Thank you. Anything else?
And just now the biggest difference is that how comfortable you want to be. They say the higher the risk, the higher the return. You know, what like I say, what buffer can you put around your big jump? You might jump knowing, you know what, I'm fine, I have wings, it's fine. Or you might jump and be like, you know what, I might need a little bit cushioning. Or this is the person I need to take along with me. But yeah, so if it's and I say my favorite branding line that I ever come across is the Nike brand. Say that says just do it. Just do it. That's yeah.
That's a
Mhm.
great example. Yeah, just do
Yeah,
it. Yes.
just do it.
Yeah. Thank you. I think I've personally, if I see that, or like little less than an hour conversation, I've learned a few things which is going to stay with me. The first thing is your self belief that yeah, things are
Mhm,
going to happen. See opportunities and challenges, and also the fact that learn to have your story right. So
mhm,
our learners are going to be learning more about co-creation and pitching of ideas in the coming up modules during
mhm,
module 4 and 5. So
mhm,
that's also something that they are going to learn. But yeah, hold on to your narrative. Be a storyteller. People
mhm,
should know what you're working on, what your solution is, what are you
mhm,
addressing, and then kind of moving not alone, but with people who
mhm,
work for you, work with you, and for whom you are working. So thank you,
mhm.
thank you, thank you. It was an incredibly enriching session for me, Umra, and I'm sure it echoes with everybody who's watching us. So though we wanted to hear more examples from you, we wanted to ask you more questions, but yeah, in
Oh,
interest of time, thank you very much, Umra, for joining us today. It's a
we'll just have to do it again, Indrani. Thank you so much. I
as
appreciate
many
it.
as
That was
times.
amazing. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you, Umra. It was a privilege for us to host you today. And then we wish you all the very best for an
You
ever
too.
evolving um, Safari Doctors with its future endeavors.
Thank you. Just do it.
Just do it. Yes, just do it, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Before we wrap up, I would like to highlight that the next week is our consolidation and catch up week, which means that we will not start any new module, but let you catch up with any of the modules or the lectures that either you have missed or you want to revisit. So take the time to do so. Nevertheless, we will be hosting a live community session on 5th of May at 11 a.m. ET. This is an interactive session which will give you the chance to meet with your peers and with us and to come and talk to us about your projects, about the course insights and plans to implement any changes in your institutions and communities. So Natalie and I are looking forward to meeting all of you. So please block your time for next Tuesday at 11 a.m. to be with us. And thank you everyone for joining us and hope you enjoyed the conversation. And we look forward to continue to talk to you in the discussion forum. Bye for now.
Bye.